So take a moment. I always like to start just like standing, feel it out. You can close your eyes, and then we'll start to roll down. So since it's lower body, really feel it the whole time thinking about grounding through your feet, slightly tensing your legs so you're really strong, slight tail tuck, and then tuck your chin and roll down one vertebrae at a time. Breathing as you go. When you get to the bottom, give yourself a little swing. Shake out your legs. And then we'll roll back up. So bending your knees slightly to tuck your tail. That's what initiates your roll back up. And as you're coming to stand, really standing your ground, trying to ground through all four edges of your feet. We'll roll down one more time. A little bit more core engagement, so you're pulling yourself down and stabilizing through your legs. Get to the bottom, give yourself a little shake, and tuck your chin, roll back up. Again, trying to ground through your feet, grounding through the inside and the outside, so you're starting to turn on your glutes. So turn your toes out, stretch up tall, and squatting. So keeping your tail tucked, squatting down. So you're imagining that you're in a narrow hallway, stretching up. A little bit more tail tuck, really try to send your knees outwards. So you're thinking almost like butterfly. And up. One more time, tucking that tail, pulling your knees super wide. We're going to stay down for a moment, keeping your upper body as still as popsicle. Pop up onto one toe, and then place it down, really pushing your heel into the ground. Lift the other toe, and down. Maybe both. You can do whatever you need to do with your arms to help stabilize, but keep trying to ground into your pinky as well as your big toe. Tuck your tail, drop your hips a little lower, and then drop your heels down, stretch it up. And we'll do the same thing, but in the upright position. So keeping your tail tucked, pressing up onto one toe, and down, other toe, and down, and then both toes. So trying to push your feet outward, so you're really squeezing your side butt, keeping your tail tucked, and then drop your heels. We'll squat one more time. Stretch it up, and then we'll fold forward. You can turn your feet forward. Shake out your hips a little bit, and then we'll come down onto your back to get your hips get warm. Yeah. So starting line on your back. I placed my mat perfectly so that the biggest ridge was in the middle. Good job. Alright, so lying on your back, you're going to keep your back pressed into the ground nice and flat, and bring your knees in towards your chest. So you're trying to actively compress, not like roll up in a ball. So you're compressing yourself as much as possible. One knee is going to stay really still, and you're going to make little circles with the other knee. So we'll do 5 in each direction, trying to compress as much as you can, circle and around. So you're just starting to warm up the front of your hip, your core, and all those little hip stabilizers. The other knee, you're trying to keep it as still as possible so your legs are moving independently of each other. After 5, switch direction. And try to keep letting your your tailbone sink deeply into the ground so you're really heavy. And then after 5, we'll switch direction. Switch leg. So resetting yourself if you've lost it, letting your low back press into the ground, press your knees into your chest, and circle with that knee. So they're just little circles, trying to keep your pelvis as quiet as possible. And then switch direction. Again, really trying to pull your knee into your chest so you can start to feel kind of your upper leg doing some work. Well, after 5, we'll do both knees at the same time. So these ones will be a little bit bigger because you get to move them both, but keep trying to keep your tailbone heavy and press your back into the ground. So your abs don't really get to relax. And same thing after 5, switch direction. As you pull your knees into your chest, keeping your hips heavy so that the front tops of your legs start to feel some work. Awesome. And then you can just pause for a moment, pull your knees into your chest, maybe nice and wide, so you get a little stretch here as well. Awesome. Okay, I didn't really think about the surface of the ground, so try to get some room so that you can lie on your back and swing your legs without kicking anything. So just take a moment to like move anything out of the way. Hopefully you won't kick anything. Awesome. Excellent. Okay, so we're gonna lie on your back, and this is gonna be nice and passive. So you just did a little activation, now we're gonna do a passive little stretch. So you're lying on your back with your feet flat on the ground. You're gonna let your knees just fall to one side, and then that's gonna initiate the momentum for your top leg to straighten and swing, kicking things, and then back through the center. You can kind of lift your toes to center yourself, put them back down, and then the other side. So you're just letting your legs swing in this little circle, trying to let your knees just drop to the side and swing. So it should be nice and passive, and it's just a little warm up for your hamstrings. Now, each time you come through the middle, think slight tail tuck to lift your knees. That'll reset yourself, so you're centered, and then you can swing easily from there. And one more to each side. And kick them bushes. And now we'll add the arm. So you're gonna, if you've done this before, just go for it. So your arm just goes over the top. It's the same arm as the leg is swinging. So you're just falling over to the side, one leg swings, the same arm goes over the top, okay, to touch your toe, back through the center, other side. Just gives you a little bit more stretch, and we'll do 5 to each side. So it's just falling to the side, reaching your foot to your hand to your foot. And then after your 5, you can sit up. As soon as I added the arm, I was like hitting all the herbs in the garden behind me, so now it smells really good, even though I made a giant mess. Fab. Okay. Oh gosh. Just gonna shake all the dirt back off my mat. Things you don't consider when you're used to being inside. Awesome. So the idea of that is just like turning everything on and then letting it relax and let gravity do the work. Okay, so we're going to get everything a little bit warmer with our plank section. So you can just start at one end of your mat. Since we're working the lower legs, we can stretch up nice and tall, fold forward with straight legs, flat back, so you get a little hamstring stretch right off the bat. And we're going to start with inchworm. So just being really deliberate with each step of your hands, making sure to shift your weight to lift your hand nice and smoothly, pushing through each finger as you walk as far forward as you possibly can. So kind of 2 plank and then beyond. Like pulling your ribs in, pushing the ground away. You're going to hold that inchworm for a breath or 2, and then walk your feet towards your hands. So again, really deliberate steps, nice straight legs. And especially when you're stepping with your feet, really trying to feel pushing up onto your toes to lift your whole leg and then place it. All the way up to your hands. Pause in that forward fold for a moment, and then we'll walk back. So same thing, deliberate steps, lifting your whole leg to place your foot. And just trying to be aware of what your pelvis is doing while you're taking these steps. The more awareness you can build in just these little steps, the more intuitive it's going to be during the exercises. When you get to that interim, really pulling your ribs in, pushing the ground away, tucking your tail, and then when you're ready, stepping your hands back towards your feet. And we'll do that one more time, all the way forward and all the way back. So you can go at your own pace, but try to be as careful as you can with each step. Keeping the push with your upper body, trying to keep your tail tucked slightly so your low core is engaged. When you get to that interim holding, trying to tuck your tail, pull your ribs in, push the ground away, and then walk back in. So really deliberate steps, noticing how kind of what you can push through in your feet to make it more controlled, and feeling that slight Kegel engagement so your low core is always supporting your legs. And then walk it back. Keep pushing the ground away with your hands. Slow. One of my yogi friends calls these monster steps. Not quite sure why. Pausing in that interim, tuck the tail, pull your ribs in, push the ground away, and then walk it back. Trying to resist the side-to-side sway as much as you can, so you really have to engage through your core and keep that tension. Excellent. And we're going to walk forward so that we're in this tabletop, but with your knees just hovering. We'll do the same thing forward and back. So really pushing the ground away, tucking your tail. So your goal is that you could balance something on your hips and it wouldn't slide around side to side. We lost someone. Oh, this one's good. And then walking back. So especially with the walking back, really tuck your tail so that you can move your legs without your hips moving, either side to side or up and down. And we'll do 2 lengths of this as well. So all the way back, all the way forward. Pushing through your fingers to protect your wrists. And then back, back, back. And then you can walk all the way back into your forward fold. Grab onto your elbows and give yourself a little hang to give your upper body a break. All right, we'll walk forward to a plank just to get your spacing, and then hips up and back. Oh, you're back. Good. I was like, did we scare her away already? So arriving in down dog. So for this whole little flow, try to keep spiraling your elbow creases forward and pushing the ground away so your upper body is really stable. If you know you have a worse leg, start with that one. We're going to lift that leg up into the air, pushing the ground away, reaching back through your foot so you have a nice little stretch. Then we're going to bend your knee and circle your knee. So you've already done these circles, so your pelvis is kind of aware of what's happening. But now that you're in a more extended position, you might have to pay more attention to it. So really keeping the push in your arms, keeping your pelvis nice and stable, and trying not to let anything except for that leg move. We're going to do 5 circles and then switch direction, 5 circles again. So you can challenge your hips by pulling your knee closer to your armpit and then really grounding through your bottom heel to keep it steady as you circle around. So you're just getting lots of mobility in your hips. And after 5, pause in that split, push the ground away, try to lift your heel a little higher, and then we'll step it down, shift forward, plank. You can always lower your knees, but lower chaturanga. Lift up cobra, sort of squeezing your shoulder blades together, puffing your chest out, and then shifting back to down dog to do your other side. So set yourself up, spiraling your elbow creases forward, push the ground away, lift your leg. Take a moment to get the stretch in the grounded leg. And then with your hips nice and square, bend your knee and circle. So as you're pulling your knee forward toward your armpit, think slight tail tuck so your low core can be engaged and you can have lots of control of your leg right from your pelvis and from your abdomen. Keep pushing the ground away. After 5, switch direction. And try to stay evenly grounded through that bottom foot and both hands. After 5, stretch it up. Step it down, shift forward plank. Elbow creases forward, lower down, chaturanga. Lift your chest up. You can give it a little shake. And stretch back, down dog. Yeah. And we'll just take a moment here to give your hamstrings one more stretch. So coming up onto your toes, you're gonna flatten out your low back. So stick your bum up, and then keeping that your tailbone reaching to the sky, you can let your heels drop, so you get an extra little bit of hamstring stretch. Cool. And then we'll ripple forward, lower down to your stomach, and you can just lay your head down on your arms. So we're gonna do a little glute activation, which is really good if your SI gets cranky, which can happen from lots of sitting. So mine was really cranky after flying. So you're just kind of lying on your stomach, your head doing whatever is comfortable. And with one leg, you're just lifting your heel off the ground, so your leg is really straight, so you don't get to bend it at all. Super straight and down. So I want you to lift, hold for a breath, and then lower. So we're going to do 10. You can do them on your own, breathing your own counting. What you're trying to feel is that your back, your low back, and like all these really strong muscles are doing as little as possible. So it's really your glute, your butt lifting your leg, and everything else is chill. So with each one, really trying to relax, engage your glute, lift it up, and then while you're holding for that breath, see if you can relax your back a little bit more. So it's not a huge high lift, but you're trying to keep your, I think the Hells Angels just rode by. You're trying to keep your pelvis and your back as quiet as possible, so you're making your glute do the work, your glute and your hamstring. Yeah. On the 10th one, we're gonna lift, hold, and you're gonna hold for a count of 10. So really straightening through your leg, relaxing through your back, relaxing through your pelvis, and then keeping that leg nice and steady. So you should really feel your hamstring and your glute working, and it won't be constant. You're gonna notice that you're clenching with something. So then once you notice it, try to relax. So maybe the leg on the ground is really trying to help. Relax it. That's gonna help you relax your pelvis, relax your back, and then maybe you can lift your leg a little higher. And then after 10, you can relax and give it a little shake. Nice. And then we'll do the other side. So yeah, it's really, nothing is super intense. It's more so instead of trying to engage everything, you're trying to relax everything. So you're not rocking side to side, you're kind of engaging your core slightly, but then so that you can relax through your back, relax through your pelvis. So super straight leg lifting, holding for a breath, and then lowering down. If you notice yourself clenching with that bottom leg, you can squeeze it so that it's already kind of engaged as much as possible, and then you're not going to be as tempted to push down into that foot. So it's straight, but not pressing into the ground. Relax through your pelvis, relax through your back. So everything just your hip bones press into the ground a little bit more evenly. And just like the other side, on your 10th one, we're holding for a count of 10. Relaxing your pelvis, squeezing both legs, lifting a little higher. And then you can, when you're done your hold of 10, just sit back on your heels to stretch out your glutes and your low back. Awesome. So since you're lying on the ground, you can really feel you get a lot of information. You can feel all the little shifts, and that's going to allow you to be even more specific about using your glute as opposed to everything around it. And if your SI is really cranky, that will kind of help reset it, because it'll remind that whole area that it doesn't actually have to do a lot of like torquey work. Your butt can do a lot. It's just doesn't like to, because it just doesn't. Excellent. So let everyone finish their lifts. And if you want to get a quick drink, this is a good moment. It's a sweaty one today. Okay, so now that your glutes are starting to warm up, we're gonna do a superset. So like thing right in a row. We're gonna do it twice. We're gonna do elbow taps. So in a plank, tapping your elbow, trying to resist your twist. Then we're gonna lower down chaturanga and do. I think everyone's done these before. We're gonna do elbow tap, lower down, cobra, and then lowering from your cobra, chest down, leg up. So mimicking the feeling that you just had in just the lifts, trying to relax your back as much as possible so that your glute is doing the work. So that's the kind of the goal of these. Okay, so superset time. So you're gonna start yourself in your plank. You can spread your feet a little bit wider for some extra stability. Press into your hands, so elbow creases spiraling forward, nice round upper back. And then tapping your elbow. We're going to do 10 to each side. So you're resisting the shift side to side by pulling your ribs in, tucking your tail, and just really standing your ground with the limbs left on the ground. Push the ground away with your hand. Pull your ribs in. So I have 3 more on each side if you're going at my pace. And if you're not, and that feels like plenty, these are definitely not super easy. So that's probably cool. So after your 10, you're keeping your elbow creases spiraling forward, lower down chaturanga, hands a little bit wide, like just off your mat if you're on a mat, coming up to cobra. We'll do, if you have a bad leg, do that one first. As you lower your chest, you're letting your heel float up. And back up. We're going to do 5. Each time trying to relax through your back a little bit more so that your glute can really do the work. Rolling up. Lifting that heel. Trying to actively relax the other side, like the leg that's down, that side of your low back. Trying to relax it. And 5th one, really squeezing your shoulder blades together. Lift. Place it down. And we'll shift back, down dog to stretch out your low back a little bit, pedal out your feet, and then placing your hands, maybe spreading your feet a little bit wider for your stability to shift forward into plank. Second superset. So if you need to spread your feet even wider, go for it. And we'll do 10 taps on each side, pushing the ground away, pulling your ribs in, tucking your tail so that your low body is connected to your upper body. To make it harder, you can reach up higher on your shoulder, or you can experiment with reaching back instead of across if you want to change it up a little bit. Whatever you're doing though, keep your tail tucked slightly so your low core's working, your ribs are pulled in. And after 10, which is now for me, can lower down chaturanga, hands nice and wide, squeeze your shoulder blades together up into cobra. For 5, these cobra leg lifts on the other side. So I'm really squeezing my shoulder blades together to lower my chest, lift that leg, and back up. Trying to relax as much through your back so it's your glute working. Your glute and your hamstring lifting your whole leg. Chest forward, lift the heel. And after 5, you can shift back, sit on your heels to stretch out your butt and your low back. Awesome. Yeah, looking good. So yeah, yeah, doing just the heel lifts first kind of activates your glute so it knows what to do, and then when you add the extra arch, it's already kind of ready so that everything else knows to relax. Awesome. Okay. So we'll kind of give that a little stretch out now, because doing lots of lifts, like, it can be a bit strenuous if you're not super used to it. So usually we do this one kind of at the beginning, but here we are. So we're going to start in the mermaid shape. So both legs are at 90 degrees and your knee is directly out from your hip. I find this one really awkward to start. Like, if I haven't done any warming up, I'm like, oh god, I don't know what to do. So I kind of like doing it not in the kind of in the middle. So 290 degrees, you're gonna turn out so that your belly button's kind of in line with your front knee, and then we're gonna wave down. So you're stretching out the glute that you just worked. We're gonna do 3 waves, with each wave really opening your chest, waving down. To come back up, you can initiate it by tucking your tail. That kind of gets your spine moving nice and smoothly. And after 3, you're going to place your elbow on the ground. So the front knee, the same elbow goes on the ground. Hand at your head. And we're going to go close and open. So keep pushing the ground away with your elbow and getting as much twist as you possibly can. Keeping your back nice and flat. After 3, extend that arm, big circle. So you can really reach forward, so you stretch out that butt, open up. Awesome. And we'll come back up to sit. So to switch sides, you're stretching up through the top of your head as much as possible, root down through your sit bone, and you're going to shift to the other side. We'll go back and forth 3 times. So this is 1. So with each one, trying to root down through your sit bones, keeping your back as flat as possible. Stretch up to the top of your head. And on this 3rd one, we'll stay so we're on the other leg. If you want to watch, you can just kind of swivel around, but it's totally not necessary. So you're ending up in that same mermaid position, knee directly in front of your hip or out from your hip. Legs bent at 90, and same thing, turning your chest towards that front knee and wave. Really trying to stick your chest out, stick your tailbone out, wave nice and smoothly, and then tucking your tail will initiate that movement back up. So you can stretch out that hip and butt that just worked at the beginning section. After 3, you can come down on your elbow, other hand at your head, pushing the ground away with that bottom elbow twist, and collapse down. So keeping your back nice and flat, so you're twisting along that axis. After 3, extending that arm, big circle, so you can really reach forward, out and around. And just notice what your hips are doing to help stabilize you as you're doing this big circle. Awesome. After 3, we'll come up. So you're back in this mermaid. Hopefully your legs haven't shifted too much. Now with your back leg, you're pushing down into your knee. Try to lift your heel up and back. You will have to lean forward a little bit, but you're trying to resist it as best you can. So you can put your hands on the ground if that helps you stabilize. And then you're trying to lift that back heel. We're going to do 8 lifts, with each one trying to stretch up through the top of your head, root down through the sit bone on the ground. Awesome. So it's really making your side hip work. Awesome. After 8, we'll do a switch. So one last switch like we just did, rooting down through your sit bone, stretching through the top of your head. So you end up on your opposite side. And then we'll do 8 lifts with that heel as well. So leaning forward very slightly with a flat back. That'll help you stabilize, and then you're lifting that heel. With each one, you're trying to stretch through the top of your head, lift that heel, nice flat back. And then you can do a quick switch back, so you end up facing forward again. and then we'll end up in our little butterfly. So one last stretch before we get into some other stuff. So stretching nice and tall through the top of your head, rooting down. We'll fold forward slightly with a nice flat back, so that'll stretch out everything that just got really angry because it made you lift your heels in the opposite direction than we usually do, which means it's going to be a really good antagonist exercise to any external rotation, so spiraling that you do in your straddle. This is going to help even it out. We'll sit back up in your butterfly. You can hold onto your feet, and you're going to actively try to pull your knees down farther and stretch up through the top of your head. So we're going to hold it for a count of 10. So you're pulling your knees down, stretching through the top of your head. So your back's nice and flat. You can feel your low core kind of engaging. So it's like thinking that Kegel, and that's going to give you a little bit more access to pulling your knees down. 2, 1, and now you can relax, but keep your back flat and fold forward one more time. Excellent. And then you can give them a little windshield wiper out to give them a moment. Lovely. All right. Grab a quick drink, and we'll do some leg lifting. All right. So we're going to do some lunges and things to get some stability going and really make everything work while you're standing. All right. So first ones we're going to do, we've done them a few times, so we're going to do the skater squats. So it might take you a moment to find the spacing of your feet. About this wide. So if you need to slide your feet around during your first one or two, that's totally cool. Keeping your chest up, so you're wanting to keep your chest up to keep your weight directly like over this center line. You can turn your feet out slightly. We're going to squat to one side, and yeah, I have to kind of shimmy to get it in the right place. Now you know you're good. We're going to stand up through the center and then go to the other side. So your heels are staying down. So of the extended leg, that toe can be pointing up, but both heels are down. So then to stand up, you're pushing into both heels to switch to the other side. Yeah. Whatever you want with your arms to keep your balance, we're going to do 5 more to each side. So with each one, trying to keep your chest a little bit more upright and keep a slight tail tuck as you pass through the center so your low core is working, and that gives you more kind of connection to your lower body. Push down into your heels to raise up and switch. Switching up, whoop, passing forward and down. It's okay if you fall over. And then down. So as you get nice and comfy with it, you can start feeling that weight shift from side to side nice and even. Push down into your heels, keeping your chest up. It's going to make your side butt really work. Do 1 more to each side. Keeping those heels pushing into the ground to help lift you up. And then pausing in the center, feet forward to stretch forward, and you can give your hips a little shake. Awesome. And then roll on up. Sweet. So in those ones, depending on which foot you think about pushing your weight into, you can feel it slightly different on your inner thighs. So if you only think about pushing into the foot of the straight one, you're kind of pulling yourself over, and you get to use like your inner thigh of that leg, which is good for like heel hooking or leg wrapping on a silk or anything like that. But if you think about pushing into the heel of your bent leg, then you get that deep, almost like where your hamstring connects, like right at the top. That is like a notoriously kind of tough place to work out. And if it's not super strong, that's when you get those, like, you can strain your hamstrings doing a split or something. So strengthening that kind of like connection point is going to make your split a little bit safer. So we're going to do one more set of those, but we're just going to do 3 to each side. And I want you to really think about pushing to come up, pushing into the heel of your bent leg. And just notice how that intention changes what you can feel in your inner thighs. Cool. So we'll just do like 2 or 3 because it's always hard to do a second set of a thing right away. This is why I would never make it in the fitness industry. Just to kind of feel that intention a little bit more. So starting down low. So really thinking grounding into the heel of your bent leg to lift yourself up. And then over. Heel of your bent leg lifted up. So hopefully you feel it like really deep in your inner leg of that bent leg. Pushing up and over. Pushing into your heel to shift. Nice. Forgot which way I started. Push down and over. Awesome. And then again, since you got nice and deep into those inner thighs, fold forward and give them a little shake side to side. Awesome. And then you can roll on up. Yeah, so that intention will also kind of help you transition from these side squats into something like a pistol squat. Which is like a very difficult thing, and it's the kind of thing that if you can't do it, you don't. It's like, oh, how am I going to work towards this? I don't know. This is kind of an assisted way to get you going into that. Okay, so that gets your lateral guys going. Now we're going to switch our orientation and go backwards. So standing, your hips, hands on your hips. Sorry, you're going to step back. So you're in this lunge shape with your knee just hovering on the ground. So if you want to place your knee to make sure that you're in this good like 90 position, cool. And then we're just going to kick off that back foot, lift it up, and reach back. So we're going to do 10. And what I want you to watch for is to make sure that your knee isn't going side to side or past your toes at all. So your knee is really staying pretty stacked over your foot. Alright, so we're doing 10. So you're reaching back, keeping your chest up, keeping that knee stable. Step up and drop down. Just hovering your knee on the back. If you start to get really tired, you can always place it down to make it slightly easier. But keeping your hips super square, keeping your tail slightly tucked so your low core is working. And really being careful about that front knee not wobbling side to side. Awesome. Try to place yourself down with as much care as possible. Cool. This is 9 for me, so if you're going at my pace and you didn't count, you're probably done. You can take a little moment before you switch sides. Yeah. And these you can like, your arms will kind of help you, but if that's too much to think about, or if you're wanting to do kind of crazy arms to start, I don't know, doing some kind of choreography, it always makes conditioning more fun. So do as you wish with your arms. Cool, second side. So starting stretched up, step it back, really ground into all 4 corners of your foot. That's going to help you keep that knee nice and stable. We're doing 10. Tucking your tail to help you lift that back leg from the ground up. Keeping your speed nice and even on the way up and down. Second side's always harder. I have 2 more. 9 and 10. Awesome. And then yeah, give your legs a little shake. Whee! Yeah. Awesome. Okay. This is the culmination of those 2 things. So we're going to do tippy stars. So instead of tippy birds, which are forward and back, we're tipping to the side. So your hips are going to stay nice and square forward. You can have your arms out because then you feel like a star, hence the name. And we're going to tip to the side and back up. So you don't have to touch the ground. I definitely found as soon as I thought about touching the ground, I rotated forward and like reached, which kind of ruins the point because we're trying to go side to side. What you can do to stabilize is bend your knees slightly. That'll give you a little bit more mobility and kind of allow you to balance a bit easier. So we're going to try 10 to each side. If you want to do 5 and 5, 5 and 5, that's totally cool. And if you want to put something on the ground to aim for, also cool. But stretching out, thinking about keeping your sides really long and straight to lean over and back up. Yeah. Over. You can bend that bottom knee slightly, but try to keep your hip bones pointing forward. Yeah. So you're forcing that whole side to lift your leg, and all that stabilizing we did on the squats is kind of coming into play. Lean and down. As best you can, keeping your two sides nice and long. Whoop. These ones are harder after all the other ones. Yeah. Yeah, nice. Nice. So keeping this side nice and long. Boop, boop, boop. So you'll kind of feel it on the leg that's moving, obviously, but then you'll also feel it on your oblique and how your core, your abs kind of wrap around to your low back. So all the stuff that you didn't get to use to do those leg lifts, that's what you're using now. Okay, so other side if you haven't already switched. Same as, so sides are nice and long, tip to the side, and back down. Yeah. If it feels like your hip, like your actual hip joint is the limiting factor, bending your knees slightly will give you a bit more movement there. One side is definitely harder for me. Reach down, good. Nice. So yeah, you're trying to keep as many straight lines as possible. Nice. And then to kind of stretch it all out, you can just round forward and kind of like shift side to side, kind of tucking your tail under and pushing out into each hip. Because all, like this whole area had to do a lot of work, so you want to just round it out after. Awesome. So this was the surprise warm-up that I didn't know that climbers knew how to warm up. It's like, oh, that was very effective, thank you. Wicked. Awesome. So now you've moved laterally, both bending and hinging, as well as forward and back. So my legs are definitely getting tired, which is why we're going to come down to our hands and knees to do some next ones. Okay. If you have a band, grab a band, like a looped band. So we're going to start with some hydrants, like some fire hydrants, like dog peeing on a hydrant. Oh, I'm so sticky. So since it's your legs, if you want to use a higher resistance band, go for it. So put the band above your knees so that we can come to our hands and knees. Ooh, I'm going to tip you down a little bit so you can see. There we go. Awesome. So, keeping your knee bent at 90, You're going to keep the push in your upper body, so elbows spiraling forward, so you're just training your handstand arms at all times. Tucking your tail very slightly, so it's not a full... So this is when this kind of pelvic tilt stuff gets a little bit more subtle. Now that you know how to do it, it's kind of like when you do like the shoulder shrug when you're hanging, and like ideally you don't want to be hanging totally on your shoulder or totally pulled down. It's the ideal place is somewhere in the middle. So the same principle kind of applies to your low core. So you're not tucking your tail so much that your hips are open, but you're also not sticking it out. So you're tucking it slightly so you can feel that low core engagement, that slight Kegel, but your low back is pretty flat. So you're going to maintain that shape. You can spread your hands a little bit wider if you need to. And then we're lifting your knees straight to the side and back down. Yeah. Straight to the side, back down. So we're going to do 10 of these. Resisting the urge as you get tired, you're going to want to pull your knee forward. Really keep it going straight to the side, back down. Making sure to control on the way up and back down. Keep the spiral and the push through your upper body. Lay it back down. Yeah, nice. Good, lift it up. If you've lost it, find that slight tail tuck again so you can feel the low core doing some work. Ground through that bottom knee. That'll help you maintain that slight tuck. Back down. And before you switch sides, you can take a moment to just like sit on your heels to give your butt a little break. Side to side. Deadly. Sweet. And then we'll do the other side. So again, setting your hands so you're spiraling your elbow creases forward. Find that slight tail tuck so that your low core is engaged, thinking Kegel, and then other knee up and down. Making sure it's going straight to the side, back down. And the controlling back in is just as important as the lift up. So make sure you're paying attention in both directions. If you're starting to lean, find that push, pull your ribs in, and keep on peeing on the hydrant. Lift it up, back down. Try to keep your knee bent at 90. As you get tired, it might want to bend a little bit more to try to help, but really try to keep it at that 90 degrees. And after your 10, you can do the same thing. Sit back and give your butt a little break. Nice. Excellent. So, since that one, if you did it banded, was a bit tough, we'll give it a little break so that you can focus on your precision for this next one. So you can ditch your band, and we're going to clamshell. So we're going to do the full thing. So we're going to go up. So knee, heel, heel, knee. So you get the external and the internal rotation. These will definitely be, since we just did so much work on that exact area, these will be more difficult, which means you really have to pay attention to your precision. I believe in you. So, stacking your hips, slight tail tuck. Go knee, heel, heel, knee. So when you lift your knee, now it's going to stay exactly where it is to lift the heel down. Yeah, there you go. Heel, heel, da, da. We're going to do 10. So this is 4. Okay. And try. You can put your hand on your hip to feel your low core working and your hip flexor relaxing. Keep that tail tuck slightly so that your low core is engaged. Back down. That's 7, I think. 2 more. you can kind of feel as you get tired, tucking your tail and pushing your hips forward slightly will help you lift your knee. So then you know that even as your glute is tired, you can still do the action. And now we're going to do 5 S's. So the S is knee up, heel down. So you're just switching. And we're going to do 5, trying to keep your midsection as quiet as possible and your leg doing some pretty things. Pretty. It will not feel pretty the first 8 million times you do it. And then all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, I'm so free. So you can give it a little stretch. You can pull your knee into your chest, maybe across your body. Kind of help get into your butt. Awesome. And then you can switch to the other side. So this is the kind of work that it really makes you appreciate when you're like, oh, my handstand's pretty good. I'm going to start doing some leg shapes. This exercise makes you realize how much your body tends to move when you're moving your legs. So if you're like, why are these leg changes in a handstand or a headstand or anything impossible? Well, this will tell you because you need to really focus on staying in control in your midsection so that your legs can move kind of freely. So hips stacked, slight tail tuck, knee, heel, heel, knee. 2. So you can watch your legs so you're being as precise as possible. You're lifting your knee to that place. It stays. Heel. Da, da. If you've lost it, slight tail tuck so that your low core is working. And then see if you really try to challenge your internal rotation on these last couple. So trying to really lift your heel, keep your knee where it is. So it gets right into the back part of your side butt. And after 10, now you're doing those S's. So don't think about it too much to get it started. And then try to keep your midsection nice and controlled so you can make that S as smooth as possible. Nice. And then when you're done, 5 or 8, you can stretch your butt out a little bit. So knee into your chest, maybe across your body a bit, and you can move it around. Awesome. Okay, what's next on my list? All right, the last one we're gonna do, we're gonna do them in this and not within the Ass and Abs Express. We're gonna do snail feet. So you can grab a block if you like. So it's always nice to, since any of this kind of like opening knee work, the side butt, that gets kind of crampy. I always like to end with like a straight lift. I find it kind of resets me a little bit more. So the block is totally up to you, but you're gonna put it between your heel and your butt. This particular one's really like literally hard, not squishy and soft, so I'm not gonna use it. Instead, I'm just gonna keep my foot flexed to keep my hips up. So the higher your hips, the easier it is. So if you're like, wow, this is simple, just make your hips a little bit lower. Upper body is kind of up to you. Just try to keep it relaxed. And just like we've done several things in this action already today, you're keeping your back as quiet as possible and trying to lift your legs straight up. So super straight leg, it's going to want to bend, and we're going to do 10 lifts. With each one really squeezing your legs, straightening it out, and trying to reach back through your heel. Try to resist the urge to push into the ground with your arms to help you. You can do it. Yeah. Super straight leg. Nice. And then you can take a little break in between your sides. Awesome. and switch sides when you're ready. Yeah. So you're trying to keep everything as quiet as possible except for your glute and your hamstring. So that's what's doing all the work. You're not like tensing with your upper body or anything. So trying to be super relaxed, lifting that leg. Reach back through your heel so your leg is super straight. And we're doing 10. Squeeze that knee, reach back. You can also think about reaching forward through the top of your head. That will help you keep that quiet, long, flat back. And then after 10, sitting on your heels, give it a little bum dance. Awesome. Yeah. Sweet. So, we'll just do like a 5, maybe like a 5-part kind of core circuit so that we can do a little bit of active flexibility now that you're super warm. Yeah, should be great. So we'll start with, obviously we're starting with dead bugs. It's the only way to start anything. Sure, you you could have guessed that yourself. So we'll do it for 30 seconds. You can alternate side to side. If you want to make it slightly more challenging, you can put the block and kind of hold it on your knee. So you have to push into the block with your knee as you do the dead bug. And by putting it this way, so I just have the block across both of my knees, it'll help you notice if you're doing any weird side to side movement. So if you want that little challenge in the dead bug, go for it. And if you would like to do some classics, that works too. Okay, we'll start your timer now. So keeping that tail tucked, reaching the leg out. And now that you have all that awareness of your low core, see if you can feel that slight pelvic tilt is what lets you pull your knee back in. You're controlling on the way out, slight tip to bring your knee back in. Keeping that low back pressed into the ground. Didn't think the block would make it this much harder. Keep that pressure. Keep the tail tucked. Your hips are clicking, just don't extend quite so far. Keeping your low back pressed into the ground. We have 10 seconds left. And you're done. You can take a moment to stretch out your stomach, a little cobra. And then the next one we're going to do is going to be on your stomach. So we're going to do the Superman pullbacks. So these ones, ready? Lift your head, your neck is long, lift your arms to your ears, and then pull everything back. So really trying to initiate the pullback from pulling your shoulders away from your ears. Everything follows from that. Okay, and again, keeping your lower body as quiet and still as possible. And go. So lifting your head, your hands, pull back, forward, everything down. With each pull back, pulling shoulders away from your ears, keeping that height, and then lowering it down. As you pull, seeing if that can lift your chest higher. Squeeze your shoulder blades together, forward and down. That's halfway. Squeeze those shoulders back so you can feel your lats working. Forward and down. Like you're pulling yourself, like you're trying to pull your body forward if you're holding on to something. Lots of tension in that upper body. Back hands wide, trying to keep your chest up. And you're done. So to kind of roll out that upper body that you just worked, we'll do these guys. Starting with your legs up, tucking your tail. So you're trying to do as little swinging as possible. Tuck your tail to rock your feet back. This will feel really nice on your upper body that you just worked. And then really compressing. So tuck your tail, push one vertebrae at a time into the ground, trying to compress your pike as much as possible. So this is a little getting you ready for your active flexibility. All right, I'll start your timer now. So tucking your tail, that's what initiates that movement back. Then compress your pike, press one vertebrae at a time back into the ground. Roll. So to get a little extra stretch in your upper body, you can let your hips come a little higher if you want to bend your knees, that's cool. But as you're coming back down, compress through that pike, squish one vertebrae at a time. Tuck the tail. And back. Yeah, so you can really feel that you can control what your legs are doing from your midsection. Which is why you need to think so hard about not using that when you're trying to work on your hips and your glutes. And you're done. Sweet. Okay, the last two we're gonna do a twist and then a kick. So we're gonna we're gonna do these ones. You come from your hollow position, lift to a boat. So your goal is to not let your legs move as you twist your upper body side to side. So if you want an extra little challenge, you can put something between your knees like a block, because then you're going to need to squeeze that and you'll see really obviously if it's moving. That part is totally up to you, because they're definitely not easy by any means by themselves. Okay, I'll start your timer now. So starting in that hollow position, lift to boat, twist, twist, and lower down. Lift up, twist. So really squeeze your knees together, whether or not there's something there. Twist your upper body. If you're a real overachiever, you can extend to straight legs and lower. Twist, twist. And if you want to challenge your brain, alternate which side you start to. Squeezing those knees together. Your inner thighs are doing some work. Twist, twist. We have 10 more seconds. Almost done. Down, lift, twist. Trying to root down through your sit bones as you twist to help control your pelvis. Done. All right, stretch out your stomach. Da, 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 da. And the last one we're gonna do alternating legs. Alternating V-snaps? Yeah. So lying down, your upper body doesn't move at all, and you're just switching your legs. So you're really going to push your low back into the ground to switch your legs. If you want, you can put a block or roll up your mat or put a sweatshirt or something under your sacrum so that you have to be a little bit more precise at the bottom part. Again, that's optional. And my block is not squishy enough for me to want to do it. I regretted it. Sorely regretted it last time. So, where are you? Okay, let's start our timer now. So upper body is nice and still, and you're just switching your legs. Trying to keep them going straight up and down, not side to side, even though you're tired. So that's forcing your inner thighs, your low core, to do some stabilizing work. If your hips are clicking, just don't let your leg drop quite so far. Trying to keep it straight, keep that tail tucked, push your low back into the ground. 25 more seconds. Almost done. 2 seconds. And scene. So definitely take a moment to stretch out your stomach. We did some twisty stuff, so go side to side. Give your hips a little shake. And then stretch it out back as well. Excellent. So we'll do a little bit of stretching now because everything's warm and activated, and I definitely am sweaty, so I'm ready to chill in some stretches. Okay, so we're gonna start with some nerve glides. Oh, I don't have my sweater out here today. Oh well, I'm gonna roll up my mat. So you're gonna want something to go under your low back. So we're gonna do kind of the active nerve glides today. So I'm gonna roll up my mat so that or a sweatshirt or anything like that, it doesn't need to be much of a thing, just like a little bit of height, so that you can lie down with it under your low back with your tailbone still touching the ground. So all of that low core pushing down, you get to forget all of that now. So now is your kind of midsection relaxed time. So for the nerve glide, your hands are going to be pressed against your knee. That's the activity. So I'm reaching down through my tailbone into the ground and pushing my knee into my hand. Straighten, flex at the top, pull it in. So it's the same action of the nerve glide that we often do, just with a slightly different position. So point, straighten, flex, pull it in. So you're trying to keep some pressure, hand to knee, knee to hand. And we'll do about 10. So the key is getting your leg all the way to straight. So if that means it's not like a super pull in, that's okay. But it wants to go all the way to straight. So this just forces kind of your low core to do a little bit of work, and this gets your body in your kind of midsection in a slightly different position from usual. Keep pushing your hand into your leg into your hand. And then I definitely feel it in kind of the front of my hip a little bit more. So before you switch to the other side, just do a few windshield wipers to stretch out that inner thigh. And if you kind of lay so the leg that I just glided is going to be the one on top. So my leg is kind of internally rotate on that side. If you just hang out there, it stretches out that whole section really nicely. Out for a moment, and then we'll do the other side. So if you need to readjust, cool. So that your tailbone is reaching to the ground, that little bump is supporting your low back, and then other side. Straighten, flex, pull it in. Point, straighten, flex, pull it in. And again, we'll do about 10. Same thing, after your 10, you can give yourself that little windshield wiper, and then hang out with the leg you just glided being the top one, so it's that internal rotation. And you can kind of walk your foot out to the side a little bit, and you'll get an extra bit of stretch in the front of your hip and your low core stretching into your inner thigh. if you've rolled up your mat, you can roll it back out when you're done. Sweet. So nerves are glided out, so your hamstring should feel a little nicer. We're going to do an active forward fold stretch. So you're going to take the band around your calfish. I find if you put it really close to your ankles, it's just kind of awkward to push out. So I kind of put it on the meaty part of my calves, so I feel like I have something to press against. Cool. So sit in. You can kind of pull the fleshy bits of your butt out so that you're really grounded through your sit bones. That kind of, I always find that makes me feel like I can sit up a bit straighter without like using my core too much. I can just stack. So we're gonna forward fold in a pike, but you're pushing outwards into your band. Not a ton, that was like an exaggeration just so you can see the direction. So I'm pushing outwards into the band so that my ankles are at about hip width. So my feet are like a few inches apart. You're going to keep that pressure out into the band with your feet flexed and then fold forward. So I'm reaching back through my tailbone, my sit bones. I'm flexing my feet and pressing out into the band, folding forward. So it's just a little bit more active. And you can breathe. So your goal is to keep your back nice and flat. With each breath, flatten out your back, reach through the top of your head. And as you exhale, see if you can fold a little bit deeper. So we'll do that for 5 breaths. So nice deep breath in, press out into the band, flatten your back. Keep the press into your band, breathe out and relax forward. So it's both active in the pushing, but also active in the breathing, that you're adjusting your shape, relaxing into it. Good, nice straight legs, trying to reach through the balls of your feet, really flex, fold forward. One more breath. And then you can relax everything and just let yourself fold. And hopefully your pike feels a little bit freer than it sometimes does. Fab. And then you can take your band off. Yeah. So between the nerve glides and the active stretch, that really gets your hamstrings all warmed up for the grand finale of the pizza pie. So this is when you will want some blocks or your sweatshirt like rolled up under your hips. And if you have another block, you can use it. I'm really regretting the heavy blocks right now. They're so good for balancing on, and they're terrible for lifting at the end of a workout. Ugh. So, this is a pizza pie, just in that it's like there are many pieces that can add together, and then this is kind of the whole thing all together. So the block is under my low back, just so my hips are a little bit elevated. My legs are up. So I'm going to push the block onto one leg, and just for stability's sake, I have it on my right leg and I have my left hand, just so that you have a little diagonal tension. Your other arm can be up by your ear, again, just for balance. So I'm keeping the pressure between my top leg and the block, and then with the other leg, I'm keeping it nice and straight, and I'm reaching it down towards the ground and back up. So you're trying to keep a very slight tail tuck, just like those first, like the hydrants, that you're not really, really tucked and rounding your back, but you're also not arching. It's a slight kegel, keep your low core engaged. That leg is super straight. So without losing that pelvis position, you're trying to pull this bottom heel towards the ground and back up. So keep that connection, trying to reach out through your feet so your legs are nice and long and straight. And we're going to do 10 of these. So the higher you put the block on your leg, the more active flexibility there is in that front leg. So if you're challenging that active split, try to put the block a little higher towards your ankle. And if you feel like you're totally losing it, just shift it down your leg again. Keep pushing that leg into the block, squeezing both legs. So you're pulling yourself into that active split and back up again. And we'll do 10 on each side. You can take a break between your sides. Keep your legs around. Definitely made my quad of my top leg tired. And then switch sides when you're ready. So, slight tail tuck so I can feel that low core working. Squeezing both legs. Pushing the leg into the block will give you something to resist against to try to pull that other leg farther down. Nice. Super straight. Keep it controlled. This is, since you have your hips up on the block, it gives you lots of information as you try to push that split bigger and bigger. You'll start to open up and you can really feel it, feel the block give it, like telling you that that's what's happening on your low back. So it both makes some space for that bottom leg to reach out and down, but it also just, lets you know what's going on. Pull yourself in a big split. Cool. And when you're done 10, you can take your block out from under your back and give yourself a little rock side to side. Maybe doing those little circles from the very beginning to just give your hips a little break.